welcome everyone. This is a special episode of Grace Notes. You're actually going to get to hear some Grace Notes today. We're in the sanctuary, and we happen to have with us our organist, Mauro, and our brand new digital pipe organ. So welcome, Mauro. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And why don't we start at the very beginning? Because a lot of people like me don't know anything about what makes up an organ. So if you could just tell us about the normal things that make a pipe organ or a digital pipe organ, and then after that maybe talk about some of the special things this organ can do.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Yes, organ is an instrument that it's supposed to work with polyphony. That's the main thing of the organ. That's how it was born, and so that means that by pressing a key, we want to be able to put into action different pipes. In this case, it's a simulation of pipes, but it works pretty much how a console of a real organ, real pipe organ would work. What happens is that now in modern instruments we have, like in this case, up to 3 keyboards, even more. Sometimes it's 5, 6, 7, I think, is the largest organ in the world.
7?
7 keyboards.
And are those called ranks? Is that the
ranks are the rows of pipes. I'll talk a little bit about that.
Right.
But yeah, we'll get into that. So what happens is that these can put into action different ranks of pipes. Here we go. And for example, the basic sound of the organ is what's called the principal. This, if you can see here, there is written principal of 8. 8 refers to the foot of the pipe, of the lowest pipe on the keyboard. Okay. So if I were to action now this principal of 8 foot and play this note, you will be hearing a 8 foot tall pipe playing. Then, as it happens, if I play the same note an octave above, the pipe would be shorter by a half, so it'll be 4 feet, right, and so on. So we have 2, 1, and we have also fractions, right? In the case of, for example, I could play, let's see here, I can play a 8 foot, but then by having 1 and 1/3, I'm putting into action actually the 5th of the sound. So you hear that note there, right? Anyway, from each keyboard you can put into action several ranks of pipes, and some have the more quality of sound similar to flutes, like the bourdon or the flute properly. To obtain that, they use pipes that are larger in diameter. That what makes like a flute-like sound. If you were to narrow down the pipe, then you would get into sounds that are more similar to, on the organ they're called viola, but string instruments, right? These are simulating a section of violins, for example. Right? And so then we can put them in combination. Add on to that, right?
Yeah. What are the buttons underneath the keys on the keyboards?
These?
No, the ones underneath. Well, we'll talk about those later. But aren't there buttons underneath those keys?
Oh, like yes. So these pistons are useful for different functions, but mainly you have 2 sections. So from 1 to 10 on this side, these are the general memories. It means that I can preset combinations of sounds and assign to each of these buttons, so that in service I can recall them very easily by just pressing one of these instead of pulling.
Oh, so it's a setting for those different knobs.
Yes. So I'll demonstrate a little bit that. For example, for service playing, I set a few of these starting from 6, where I have a softer combination. As I press 6, you can see I have, for example, 4 stops pulling out from the main division, the great organ, which is the central keyboard. And then I have a few more on the positive, which is the lower keyboard in this case, and 3 or 4 here in the recitative, which is the upper keyboard, and a few in the pedal. And this will give me rather soft sound, right? If I were to pull now more stops out, for example, see, this would add ranks of pipes, and so the sound would become bigger. But I have already preset those using the buttons that you're asking about. So by pushing these, I'm already recalling a few
Okay.
more.
I see. And I see them moving in and out.
They come out.
Yeah. What are the switches above, the first ones you pointed to?
Yes, so these plaques, they work very similarly to the pistons, except for they are used in this case more to combine keyboards. Like, for example, I can set up a few stops on the, let's say on the grate, and it will play here, right? And then I want to add a few more pipes on this keyboard, right? So I can play it. Now, if I wanted to have these sounds on that keyboard, I can couple them by pressing this plank here, which is positive to grate. Now they are combined, you know, and so here there are options to do that. Other things you can do from here would be assigning sounds to different sections of speakers in the sanctuary, right? For example, I can play, I don't know if this will be clear on camera, but right now these sounds are coming from that area. By pressing these buttons here on the far right, I can actually send that sound all the way to the back of the sanctuary.
I hear it, yeah.
Right?
I hear it.
So you will hear a little bit of this in action in the mini recital that I'll be playing for dedication, where I have some instruments occasionally coming from this side of the church and from over there to create this 3D sound effect, right?
Yeah.
Which is,
I've been telling people that the one thing they're really missing if they're not able to worship in person is just getting to hear the organ and how the sound moves around the space. Now, you're not just using your hands, you're using your feet.
Exactly.
I can't see your feet. Hopefully, they can at least see part of your feet. There are buttons and there are pedals. Can you explain what happens down below the keyboard?
Yes. So mainly I have pedals. Exactly, there are 2.5 octaves of pedals. So it will be this much worth of pedals if you compare it with the keyboard. And the pedal board is exactly just like a keyboard. It works exactly like a keyboard, except for pedals are longer. In this case, we have what's called a concave radial pedal board, which allows you to move, you know, on one side on the other one, and always be parallel to the pedals. So there are some organs where they actually parallel like this, so you have to, you know, scoot over. So this makes very, very comfortable. Besides the pedal that I can, you know, show playing a little bit, you can play a whole C major scale, you know, and so on. And for those of you who are familiar with some piano playing, there are also pistons down here that functions just like these. So you can assign presets and recall them. I may be, you know, busy playing, like in this case actually, you know, I'm playing right here and needing to jump up and change, and I don't have the time to do it with my hands, so I may just like use one of those pistons that are located close to the pedal board. So that's something you can do. Our Cymbelstern is also here, that you can action with your feet.
That's my favorite.
And hear the bells. Lastly, we have the crescendo pedals. So the properly called crescendo is the pedal that allows you to start from a softer registration, and as you, let's say, accelerate, as you dial up, you add stops automatically. Now you cannot choose what stops you're pulling this way, but it is rather standard. You know? You have 8 foot at first, since we talked about pipes, and then the 4 feet will come right after, and then 2, and so on, right, to the smaller pipes, which makes higher sounds, you know, until you get a fuller sound. And then you have one expression pedal for the swell. This is the swell keyboard, and one expression pedal for the great and the positive. So what these do on a real pipe organ, it would be that the pipes assigned to these keyboards are enclosed in a box in a room, and this room has windows. By actioning this pedal, you can actually open the windows, so there will be more sound coming out, right? And you can hear it. Now the window is closed. I can start opening it. And then back down. Right? Now here it's simulated, but that's what happens.
Now, are all of those things like the stops and the pistons and the pedals, is it all in the music notation, or is a lot of that up to the organist to decide how to interpret the piece of music?
Yes, it depends on the composer. Some things, as you get, as happens even with notation and articulations and other music elements, the closer you get to contemporary music times, the more composers tend to notate on the page. Yeah. So if you see a page written by Bach, it's well, now this is edited, but he barely writes anything. You don't see articulation. You definitely don't see any indication of registration, except for rarely when, for example, we use in the hymn playing, when he assigns the cantus firmus, so the main melody of the hymn, to the pedal, he will write 4 foot to the pedal to tell you that he wants that to be prominent, right? But not much more than that. As you go into the Romantic era, then you start seeing more indication. Like, for example, César Franck, he writes things like pull out the trumpet stop, pull out the 8 foot, and he doesn't go much above the 8 foot. So that's the discretion of the organist. When you hear famous Franck recordings, they always use more than just the 8 foot that he indicated. But and this has more to do with the fact that at that point the organ was intended as an imitation of the orchestra. So what you would do is to think more orchestrally, right? And say, like, at this point it sounds like this could be played by the whole string section plus brass, and that's the discretion of the organist. Yeah.
I've heard it said that on a chessboard there are really an infinite number of moves, and I look at this organ and I look at all the stops and the pedals and the buttons, and I think there's really almost an infinite number of choices that you have at your disposal.
Yeah.
Now I understand that this new organ has a lot more choices and options and possibilities than the old one did. So maybe just share with us a little bit about kind of what makes this particular organ special and unique, and what you're excited about.
Absolutely, yes. And again, in registration, there is not a clear recipe. As you say, it is an infinite number of possibilities. I feel it's a little bit like cooking, using the ingredients. You can, certainly there are traditions. You wouldn't grate cheese on fish, for example, according to the Italian cuisine. But then there is an unlimited amount of options, and you can just hear the sounds, and you may change your mind later and do several things. But anyway, on this specific organ, what I'm really excited about is that you can select different suites, as Alan calls them. So this is a digital organ. This is works with sampled sounds. So they went around with microphones and recorded different organs around the world. And we have, in this case, just at at one touch away, we have.
And I don't know if they can see, but there's a screen that he's.
There's a screen that shows you, for example, an English cathedral organ. This would be probably what you would find in St. Paul's Cathedral, right? And they recorded those sounds.
So the organ is not making the sounds; it is replaying actual sounds that have been sampled from real.
Yes. Real so what they did, they went around and recorded, for example, the principal 8, like we talked about. Held it down, and they recorded a few seconds of that. And then they did that for each single key. They did that with each stop, each key, each combination, and then when they start be combined, other things come into play, like how the whole box, the whole body of the organ would vibrate according to having just a few stops or a lot of them together. Mm-hmm. These all make different parameters you have to play with when it comes to sampling, but that's a complex matter. But what I can do here, for example, I can choose English cathedral sound, which has a library, all these sounds from some cathedral in England, I don't know exactly which one, and then you have the Cavalier Call, which is the French main builder of French organs in the 19th century. He was a genius of organ building, and created organs like, for example, the one in Notre Dame, Saint-Denis, Saint-Sulpice, all the famous cathedrals in France. And this is probably one of my favorites, absolutely, in here. Then you have an American studio organ, more of a German, what it could have been a Bach organ, right? Then
so these each have a distinct sound.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's demonstrate a little bit. So, for example, it will take a few seconds, but let me load the Cavalier Call. So now you understand. If at the end of the service I wait a few seconds before start playing, it's because I'm, waiting for the organ to load the library, which is massive, as we talked about.
Yeah.
Here we go. So now we have the Cavalier Call, and then also I can. What I'm doing now, I'm setting memory banks. So these are the general, we talked about 10 general combinations. Well, times 128, which are the banks that this organ can hold. So I can actually, that's the amount of memories of preset I can do, right? It is huge.
And our former organ didn't have different suites, it was just one, is that right?
One suite, and it had a key, if you recall, it had here, with 4 banks, and then the same number, I believe, of general memory. So that 10 plus 4 in this case is, the 10 times 4 in this case is 10 times 128, yeah. Okay. Plus some extra. But anyway, let's see, for example, I have preset a few sounds here for you. And this is the Cavalier Call organ, French cathedral organ. Right? Let's see, other sounds. I believe I set it on 7. Let's load a different organ now and do the same few notes, yeah, to show the difference. Let's say I want to use the classic Allen. Classic Allen is just a digital regular Allen organ, probably similar to what we had before. I'm going to play the same passage. Here we go. So the sounds are the same. You still have a trumpet, you have an oboe, but the flavor is slightly different. Now, once you come back to the sanctuary, you can hear this even more.
I might even say that the first one sounded a little more charming.
Right.
Yeah. They were both nice, though. Yeah. Wow, that's great. So there's a lot here to add to the worship life of the congregation. There's a lot that you can do. Like you said, almost infinite possibilities when it comes to the music. I remember in one church that I served, the organist was really great. I just love organ music, well played. And I said to him, "Do you think I could learn how to play the organ?" Mm-hmm. He said, "Sure. You know how to play the piano?" And I said, "No." And he said, "I don't think you have time to play the piano." How long have you been playing The organ.
The organ. So I started in my home church in Italy, and I started playing services when I was 11 years old. So I used to go to church and watch the organist, and I was very attracted by this sound. And that was not even a great organ; it was a Viscount basic model from 40 years ago now. You know. But I really enjoyed watching what he was doing. I was captivated. So I asked my parents to bring me to a choir rehearsal at some point, and they brought me to the choir to sing in the choir. I didn't really like that, actually. I started crying the day, I remember.
Really?
I wanted to go home. But then later, I got the courage to go to the organist and pull the suit and say if I could just sit there and watch him play. And so from there, he started mentoring me a little bit, and I started playing services later when I was 11.
Wow.
I've been doing it since. First in my home church, and then later I got connected with the diocese,
Diocese, yeah.
diocese, yeah. So I started playing in the cathedral of my hometown for the celebration with the bishop, and then eventually, when I moved to America, I happened to be in New York at some point, studying, and a little bit I was missing this, and it was a job that I was comfortable doing. I knew how to do, and so I got connected and started doing it again in Brooklyn with St. Mary's Episcopal Church, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So I started
Yeah.
again.
Well, we're so fortunate to have you, and you're already a wonderful artist, and now I feel like you've been given more possibilities, with this new organ. So we're grateful
excited
for all the people that donated, and we're excited about the dedication, which again is going to take place on Sunday, December 13th. We're going to dedicate the organ during the service, and then we're going to do that towards the end of the service, and then Mauro's going to play a mini concert for about 15 or 20 minutes. But there'll be special music throughout the service that we're going to show really the different flavors of this organ. So we hope that if you're able, you can come in person, but if not, we definitely hope you can consider getting on the live stream or watching it later. I know your parents watch you every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Yeah.
They download the bulletin and they follow.
Yeah. And so hopefully they'll watch this too. You can let them know about
Absolutely, yes, they will.
this link. So anyway, Mauro, thank you for your time, and thank you for showing us a little bit about what this organ can do.
My pleasure.
And we can't wait to see both you and the organ grow together and help us grow in our worship of God. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Thanks. For
Oh,
chatting.
do you want to send us out maybe with a little bit
Sure, yes.
music?
Yeah,
Is that okay?
absolutely. I'll play a little bit of the end. This is a spoiler alert.
Okay.
The ending of the Frank Chorale. As soon as it loads.